The sun had just begun to rise over the red hills of Texas when a lone cowboy, Eli McGraw, rode across the dry plains with his little daughter, Daisy, perched in front of him. The cold morning wind carried dust and silence, broken only by the steady rhythm of Eli's horse. The widowed rancher had lived through storms, droughts, and heartbreak, but nothing could have prepared him for what this morning held. Life on the ranch was a quiet grind. Wake before dawn, feed the horses, mend the fences, and keep little Daisy smiling after losing her mother 2 years ago. She was the reason Eli still breathed. Her laughter was the echo that kept his broken heart beating. As they neared the old creek bed behind the McGraw ranch, Daisy tugged at her father's sleeve. "Papa, stop the horse." "Please," Eli reined in his stallion, his eyes narrowing as he followed her tiny hand, pointing toward a torn sack lying by the water's edge. It looked like garbage someone had dumped, but something about it felt wrong. Too still, too heavy, too human. Eli jumped off the horse, motioning Daisy to stay put, and cautiously approached. When he got closer, he heard it, a faint, trembling sound like a cry trapped between life and death. He tore open the coarse burlap sack and froze. Inside lay a young woman, bruised, pale, barely breathing. Her lips were cracked, her skin streaked with dirt. But her eyes, those eyes fluttered open and held a soft, broken glow. Daisy gasped, covering her mouth. "Papa, she's alive!" Eli lifted the woman out gently. She was light as a feather, a ghost of what she'd once been. Someone had tied her hands and left her to die in the cold creek bed. Eli carried her to his horse, his mind burning with questions. Who would do this and why? Daisy looked up at the woman, whispering, "She looks like Mama, Papa. Look at her hair. It shines the same in the sun." Eli said nothing, just tightened his grip on the reins and galloped back toward the ranch. Hours later, the woman lay resting in Eli's cabin, wrapped in blankets near the fire. Daisy sat beside her, brushing her hair with gentle hands, humming the lullaby her late mother used to sing. The stranger stirred and opened her eyes. "Where am I?" she whispered. Eli stepped closer, his deep voice calm. "You're safe now, ma'am. Name's Eli McGraw. You were found half dead in a sack by the creek. Someone tried to finish you off." The woman's eyes welled with tears, and she tried to sit up, but Eli pressed a hand to her shoulder. "Don't push yourself. Rest first. Talk later." That night, when the stars hung low and silver over the plains, Eli sat by the fire cleaning his rifle, while Daisy slept curled against the woman's side. The stranger stirred again, her voice trembling. "My name's Clara," she said quietly. They thought I was dead. My own kin did this." Eli looked up, his jaw tightening. "Your own kin?" She nodded weakly. "My father married me off to a man who wanted our land. When I refused to sign over my part, they beat me, tied me up, and threw me in the river. I must have floated miles before getting stuck in that creek." Her voice cracked. "If you hadn't found me." Eli stared into the fire, remembering the day his wife died, giving birth to Daisy. Pain and loss had turned him hard. But tonight something inside him softened. "You ain't gonna die here," he said finally. "You've got a second chance, Clara. Maybe that's God's will." From the corner of the room, Daisy stirred, half asleep. "Papa?" she mumbled softly. "Is she gonna stay with us?" Eli smiled faintly. "She will for now." Days passed, and Clara began to heal. She helped around the ranch, feeding the chickens, tending the horses, even cooking breakfast for Daisy when Eli rode out early. The little girl followed her everywhere, holding her hand, asking endless questions. "Why did they hurt you, Miss Clara? Why do you smile even when you cry?" Clara only smiled and kissed her hair. "Because sometimes, sweetheart, smiling is the only way to heal." Eli often watched from afar, torn between gratitude and confusion. Something about Clara's presence stirred old memories. The way she laughed, the way she sang softly at dusk. It was as if his late wife's spirit had returned through this broken woman. But peace in the Wild West never lasted long. One evening, as the sun sank behind the hills, A group of riders appeared on the horizon. Eli knew trouble when he saw it. The men dismounted at his gate, their faces shadowed under wide-brimmed hats. The leader, a slick man with a scar across his jaw, spat on the ground. "We're looking for a woman, McGraw," said she might have wandered this way. "Name's Clara Winslow." Eli's eyes darkened. "Ain't seen nobody by that name," the man smirked. "Funny, 'cause her horse was found down by your creek. You wouldn't be hiding stolen property, would you?" Eli stepped forward, his hand resting on his holster. "This here's my land. You ain't welcome unless I say so. Now ride off before I make you." The man chuckled, tipping his hat. "Careful, cowboy. She's worth a fortune to the right people. Her daddy put a price on her head." The men rode off, leaving a trail of dust, but Eli knew they'd be back. That night, Clara cried quietly by the fire. "They won't stop," she said. "They want my signature. They'll kill you if they find out you helped me." Eli reached over and took her hand. "Let 'em come. I've faced worse than greedy cowards. You're safe here." At that moment, Daisy woke and stumbled over, rubbing her eyes. She looked at Clara and smiled sleepily. "Papa, she's Mama," she whispered, wrapping her tiny arms around Clara's waist. Eli's chest tightened, his throat closing. Clara hugged the child, tears streaming down her face. For the first time, she felt like she belonged somewhere, not as a burden but as family. When morning came, the attackers returned. Gunfire cracked across the ranch, dust flying, bullets striking wood. Eli fought fiercely, defending his home with steady aim and unbreakable courage. Clara hid Daisy behind the barn, praying aloud. "Please, Lord, don't let him fall." When the smoke cleared, the outlaws were gone, some dead, some fleeing into the hills. Eli stood bleeding from his arm, but alive. Clara ran to him, clutching his face, her tears mixing with blood and dust. "You risked your life for me," she cried. Eli smiled faintly. "You're worth it." Weeks later, peace returned to the ranch. Clara stayed, not as a stranger, but as the heart of the home. She cooked, laughed, and brought light back into their world. Daisy often played by the porch, humming, "Papa, Mama's here now." And Eli would nod quietly, his eyes glistening, knowing that sometimes miracles don't come in thunder or fire. They come wrapped in burlap, half dead and reborn by love. As the wind blew gently across the plains, Eli looked toward the setting sun, Clara's hand resting in his, and Daisy giggling beside them. "Guess God knew what he was doing," he said softly. "He sent us what we lost." Clara smiled through tears. "No, Eli, he sent us what we needed." Weeks passed, and peace settled over the McGraw ranch like a soft blanket. The sun rose golden each morning, painting the fields where Clara and Daisy laughed together, feeding the horses and chasing butterflies. Eli watched them from the porch, his once empty heart filling again with warmth he thought he'd buried forever. Clara's gentle spirit breathed life into the home. She cooked, sang, and told stories at night that made Daisy's eyes shine. Yet behind her smiles, shadows lingered. Some nights she woke crying, haunted by the men who tried to end her life. Eli would sit beside her silently, his hand resting over hers, offering comfort words could never reach. One quiet evening, as the air turned cool and the prairie wind hummed low, Eli rode out to mend a fence near the ridge. From afar he spotted 3 riders cutting through the horizon. The same men who'd threatened him before. He hurried back. "Clara, take Daisy and hide," he ordered. But Clara shook her head, tears glinting in her eyes. "I'm done running, Eli. They'll never stop if I do." Before he could argue, the riders stormed the ranch. Gunfire shattered the peace. Eli fought fiercely, but a bullet grazed his side. Clara grabbed the old rifle, aiming steady despite trembling hands. "You won't take my family again?" she cried, firing a single shot that dropped the leader where he stood. The others fled into the dusk, leaving silence behind. When it was over, Daisy ran from the barn, clutching Clara's dress. "Mama, Papa's bleeding!" Clara tore a piece of her apron, pressing it to Eli's wound, sobbing. "Stay with me, Eli, please." He managed a faint smile. "You're brave, Clara. Braver than I ever was." She kissed his forehead. whispering, "We're a family now." Eli, "No one's taking that away." As the night settled, Daisy curled between them, whispering softly, "Mama saved us." Eli wrapped his arms,